The Nosonite's teaching of ayeih is relevant to people on all different levels, especially those who have become detached from religion. If you have fallen down badly, there is really no other way to give yourself a new life. Oh, you must search for God where you are. There's really no other way to give yourself a new life. There's really no other way to give yourself a new life. You must search for God where you are, in your actual situation, there in the place you have fallen to. This is how you can climb out of your low and rise way above. Oh, if you have fallen down badly, there's really no other way to give yourself a new life. You must search for God. You must search for God where you are, in your actual situation, there, in the place you have fallen to. This is how you can climb out of your low and rise way above. However, ayeih also applies to those who have already attained the highest degree of spirituality. All people need to follow this teaching, because everyone must constantly move forward from level to level. It is no good to stand still. When the time comes to progress from one level to the next, you must necessarily experience a fall before you can rise up. The moment you actually fall, you are far from God. His glory becomes concealed from you. This is when you have to search, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Only by searching can you rise and attain the higher level. It is only possible to move from level to level through ayeih, which is the highest utterance, the hidden utterance of bezH, from which all 10 utterances derive. The reason is that when you move from one level to the next, in effect, you become a new person with new spiritual powers. All your energies are renewed when you leave your previous level and enter the next. The only way to renew yourself and go forward is by first going back. You have to go back to the ultimate root, which is ayeih, the root of all 10 utterances, through which the world is created. As such, ayeih contains all the worlds, all the souls, and all the levels in the world. The only way to renew all your energies, nachma. The reason, nanach, nachman. The reason is that when you move from one level to the next, in effect, you become a new person with new spiritual powers. All your energies are renewed when you leave your previous level and enter the next. The only way to renew yourself and go forward is by first going back. You have to go back to the ultimate root, which is ayeih, the root of all 10 utterances through which the world is created. As such, ayeih contains all the worlds, all the souls, and all the levels in the world. As such, ayeih contains all the worlds, all the souls, and all the levels in the world. As such, ayeih contains all the worlds, all the souls, and all the levels in the world. This explains where there has to be a fall before you can move forward. Because before you can rise, you must first go back and attach yourself to the ultimate root of ayeih, which contains all the levels in the world. Only here is it possible to receive the new spiritual energies needed to rise to your new level. There has to be a fall, because it is through falling that you are spurred into searching ayeih. When you search properly, you can rise to the ultimate heights of ayeih, the root of all, and then you can draw down from there the new life and energy you need to achieve the higher level. It is good to combine Torah study with the worldly occupation, because the effort they both involve makes sin be forgotten. Nachman. It's good to combine Torah study with the worldly occupation, because the effort they both involve makes sin be forgotten. The spiritual work of a Jew is divided into two categories, with emphasis sometimes on one and sometimes on the other. The first category is studying Torah and keeping the mitzvahs. This aspect of our spiritual work centers around the revealed glory of God, the glory that fills the world, for the whole world is filled with His glory. God's revealed glory refers to the 10 utterances through which the world was created and in which God's glory is clothed. These utterances are revealed in the Torah and mitzvahs as a whole and are encompassed in the 10 commandments, which correspond to the 10 utterances. These 10 utterances are revealed in the Torah and mitzvahs as a whole and are encompassed in the 10 other commandments, which correspond to the 10 utterances. The whole purpose of keeping the Holy Torah is to reveal God's glory, which is the root of the Torah. As the rabbis indicated when they said glory is none other than Torah. You must occupy yourselves with Torah and mitzvahs constantly so as to reveal God's glory until the entire world is filled with His glory. This is the idea of the passage at the beginning of the lesson of ayeih, which speaks about how everyone must always examine what they are intending to do to see if it will enhance God's glory. If it does, they should do it. If not, then not. All our actions should enhance God's glory. But it is impossible to be attached to the Torah every moment of the day and night without interruption. Sometimes it is necessary to take a break for a while. As the Talmud teaches, there are times when the best way to keep the Torah is by leaving off Torah. Besides, people have their work obligations and other material needs. When they are thus occupied, they do not see God's glory, because God's glory is mainly revealed in the Torah and mitzvahs. During the times you are removed from the Torah, you have to inspire yourself with the second kind of spiritual work, searching for God's hidden glory through ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Then you would be able to draw inspiration wherever you are, regardless of the situation. Even if you get into bad ways and find yourself in the worst possible situation, you must still take yourself in hand and follow the teaching of ayeih, searching for God in every way you can. Through this, you will be able to rise way above to the level of ayeih. Ayeih itself, this level atones for all sins, and by searching ayeih, you can make amends for everything. As taught in the lesson, it is good to combine Torah study with a worldly occupation, because the effort they both involve makes sin be forgotten. Torah and a worldly occupation refer to the two kinds of spiritual work. The first involves the revealed glory of God that fills all the world and manifests in the Torah and mitzvahs. The second applies to worldly affairs, business and other mundane matters, which are not intrinsically holy and where God's glory is not directly visible, yet we are still obliged to attend to them. And then we have to search for God's glory and find life and inspiration through ayeih, the hidden utterance, which is the source of all things. Ayeih is so concealed that even sin and the forces of evil draw their life force from there. By searching where is the place of His glory, it is possible to rise to the great heights of ayeih, the very roots of holiness. Here, all sin and all the forces of Here all sin and all the forces of evil are nullified. Here all sin and all the forces of evil are nullified. This is indicated in the Mishnah when it says, the effort they both involve makes sin be forgotten. The two kinds of spiritual work, Torah and worldly affairs, are both necessary. And together they nullify sin and the forces of evil. Pursuing worldly occupations by and for themselves is valueless. Granted, it is possible to search for God there too and come to the heights of ayeih, but worldly affairs involve considerable risks. It is all too easy to get trapped by them and go astray. This is because worldly affairs and business pursuits derive their life force from ayeih. Firstly, the holiness of ayeih is greatly concealed. And secondly, precisely because of its concealment, ayeih is also the source of the power of all the forces of unholiness, making their influence very potent in the world of mundane affairs. For both these reasons, it is very easy to get so caught up in business and other material pursuits that you come to forget God completely. Your silver and gold will multiply, and your heart will be lifted up, and you will forget the Lord your God, because holiness lies in a state of concealment and worldly affairs. The one who is involved in mundane pursuits must search for God very intensely. Only through searching is it possible to find Him and rise to the level of ayeih. Failing to do so properly may bring one to forget God completely. Therefore, someone who is involved in business and other material affairs should be sure to set aside fixed times for Torah study. The Torah should be his first priority, while worldly affairs should take second place. God's glory is revealed in the Holy Torah. If you immerse yourself in the Torah, then even when you go out into the world to attend to your material needs and business pursuits, you will not get trapped. You will still be able to search for God's glory, because by giving the Torah priority in your life, you will have made it your constant endeavor to reveal God's glory at all times. Even when you are far from God's glory while engaging in worldly affairs, you will still search ayeih, where is the place of His glory? This way, you will be able to rise to the ultimate heights. It is equally impossible to be occupied only in Torah to the exclusion of all worldly involvement. You must always be moving from level to level, and in order to do so, you have to fall first before you can rise higher. In your lows, the only way to revive yourself is by searching for God's glory. This is the spiritual work of the second kind. Involvement with worldly affairs such as making a living. This is when you have to search for God's glory in order to rise to the ultimate heights of ayeih, through which all sins are nullified. This explains how the effort they both involve makes sin to be forgotten. Through the combination of these two types of spiritual work, sin and evil are nullified. Rebbe Nachman alludes to the basic concept of this Mishnah at the end of the lesson of ayeih, where he speaks about traveling. When a person goes on a journey, the Torah goes before him, and before each Torah there are doubts and confusions. The two categories in the Mishnah are Torah and worldly occupations, which corresponds to when you sit in your house and when you go on the way. The practice of laboring in Torah study is compared to sitting in your house, because the holiness of Torah is permanent. Like a house, it is fixed and established forever. One who immerses himself in Torah study tries to reveal God's glory, which is the foundation of the world. In contrast, one who is estranged from the Torah is separated from God's glory. He is called a fugitive and a wanderer. He is called a fugitive and a wanderer. This represents the idea of going on the way. This represents the idea of going on the way. Such a person has no fixed place. He roams and wanders, and no one knows where his place is. Today it is here. Tomorrow somewhere else. Therefore, where is the place of his glory is connected to the idea of worldly occupation in the Mishnah. The Hebrew expression for a worldly occupation is derech eretz, the way of the world. So many business activities involve traveling. People turn into fugitives and wanderers. People turn into fugitives and wanderers in search of a livelihood. People turn into fugitives and wanderers nach, nachman, in search of a livelihood. When we are involved in worldly affairs, we must search for God's glory. When we are involved in worldly affairs, we must search for God's glory. When we are involved in worldly affairs, we must search for God's glory. And so it is written, he wanders around for bread. Where is it? This idea of traveling epitomizes the exile of the Jewish people. The exile turned the Jews into wanderers and fugitives in the diaspora, like a bird wandering from her nest. So is a man who wanders from his place. The wandering of the individual and the wandering of the individual and the wandering of the Jewish people are one concept. In exile, you must search more than ever for God's glory, constantly asking, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? If we search for God, He will certainly help us find Him. As we are promised in the Torah, God will scatter you among the nations, and from there you will search for the Lord your God, and you will find Him. If you search after Him with all your heart and all your soul and your distress, when all these troubles befall you. This holds true especially in our time as we approach the end of the exile and stand poised on the threshold of the Messianic age. Godliness is concealed more powerfully than ever beneath thousands upon thousands of layers. All the prophets from Moses onward and even the patriarchs themselves foresaw and prophesied the dire troubles of the Jewish people at the end of days. Worst of all is the spiritual crisis, the tremendous gulf that separates us from God to a degree unparalleled in all of Jewish history. Not that we lack material difficulties. The material problems of our times are acute, yet previous generations also endured endless material problems and suffering, including expulsions, migrations, persecutions, and massacres. But when the prophets and sages contemplated the birth pangs of Mashiach, with such foreboding, saying, "Let it come, but let me not see it. Let it come, let the Mashiach, let it come, but let me not see it." What chilled them was the depth of the spiritual crisis, the unbearable concealment of godliness. We find ourselves bereft of truly outstanding leaders, like the great tzaddikim of previous generations. And throughout the world, falsehood grows stronger and stronger while truth is fragmented. There is indeed a proliferation of truth, but only in the sense that the truth has been divided. There is indeed a proliferation of truth, but only in the sense that the truth has been divided, with innumerable groups of people all claiming that the truth is on their side. Deep down, they are aware of their own inadequacies. Yet this does not stop them. Deep down, they are aware of their own inadequacies. Yet this does not stop them. Deep down, they are aware of their own inadequacies. Yet this does not stop them from boasting about how they have found new ways of getting close to God. Deep down, they are aware of their own inadequacies. Yet this does not stop them from boasting about how they have found new ways of getting close to God. Many have been led astray as a result, losing touch with the authentic Torah way that our ancestors always followed, free of sophistication and new discoveries. Falsehood pushes itself forward in every possible way, and they dash truth down toward the ground. Many have been led astray as a result, losing touch with the authentic Torah way that our ancestors always followed, free of sophistication and new discoveries. Falsehood pushes itself forward in every possible way, and they dash truth down to the ground. Most serious of all is the rampant secularism coupled with a predominantly materialistic attitude towards life. Most serious of all is the rampant secularism coupled with a predominantly materialistic attitude towards life. This is the outlook dominating the education of the great majority of Jewish youth today. This is the outlook dominating the education. This is the outlook dominating the education of the great majority of Jewish youth today. All the emphasis is on secular education, with the result that tender souls are trapped in a vicious network of ideas that alienates them from the spirituality, which is the life source of the Jewish people. trapped in a vicious network of ideas that alienates them from the spirituality, which is the life source of the Jewish people. Spiritual death is far worse than physical death. If our hearts were sincerely turned to God like those of the saintly Jews of previous generations, we will be falling on our faces and beating our heads against the wall day and night at the thought of the catastrophe facing our youth. It is plain for all to see that the emphasis on secular studies at the expense of serious religious education has produced generations of scoffers who are alienated from the Torah and are totally removed from the it is plain for all to see that the emphasis on secular studies and at the expense of serious religious education has produced that the emphasis on secular studies at the expense of serious religious education has produced generations of scoffers who are alienated from the Torah and are totally removed from the traditions of Jewish sanctity and purity. It seems impossible to bring them back. For all who go into her, i.e. secularism, will not return. The prophets long ago foresaw this terrible proliferation of spiritual troubles. As when Daniel wrote, many shall purify themselves and make themselves white and be refined, but the wicked will do wickedly, and none of the wicked will understand, but those who are wise will understand. Nachman, blessed is he who can put his trust in God in times like these and take strength in him. Nothing can equal the traditional path of truth and simplicity our fathers always traveled, raising their children with God's Torah, the oral Torah, the Talmud and the codes, and the written Torah. Or to put all the emphasis on the written Torah to the total exclusion of the oral Torah is a path fraught with danger. Those intellectuals who charted the direction for the education of so many Jewish children today, those intellectuals who charted the direction for the education of so many Jewish children today, claimed they wanted to give a new emphasis to Bible studies and ended up eliminating religious studies from their curriculum altogether. They wanted their pupils to know about exotic places and unusual biological phenomena. They wanted their pupils to know about exotic places and unusual biological phenomena. They wanted the pupils to know about exotic places and unusual biological phenomena. But when they came to the details of Torah law, they were indifferent. May God take pity on us and our children and on the remnants of the house of Israel and save us from them. At the climax of this final exile, therefore, it is essential for everyone to follow the teaching of ayeih at all times, constantly searching for God's glory in all places. If we search properly, we will undoubtedly find Him. This applies to everyone, regardless of how low he may be or what he may have gone through in his life. This applies to everyone regardless of how low he may be or what he may have gone through in his life. Even if you think you have made no progress at all, you should still try to get a grip of yourself and keep searching for God in the actual situation in which you find yourself. Even if you have descended to the worst possible places, the filthy places that are cut off from God's glory. For I will not give my glory to another. You should still make every effort to search ayeih, where is the place of His glory. Eventually you will succeed and you will rise to the ultimate heights of ayeih, the hidden utterance, which is the source of the vitality of all the 10 utterances of all the 10 utterances, all the worlds, all the souls, and all the levels. After the Torah was given, the children of Israel wandered about in the wilderness for 40 years, and all the time the sanctuary traveled with them. There God spoke with Moses, and from the mouth of Moses, the children of Israel learned Torah. The entire Torah is encompassed within the 10 commandments, which embody the 10 utterances through which God's glory is revealed. The entire Torah and all 10 divisions of glory derive from the hidden utterance of bezH, ayeih. This is the source of the Torah. Nanach, nachman, meuman. The entire Torah and all 10 divisions of glory derive from the hidden utterance of bezH, ayeih. This is the source of the Torah, the source of glory, and the source of the 10 utterances. And in your revelation of Torah you attain, whether in your understanding of the Torah itself or your understanding of the mitzvah, the meaning of your spiritual work, whether in your understanding of the Torah itself or your understanding of the meaning of your spiritual work, prayer, the mitzvahs, etc., is a giving of the Torah. Any revelation of Torah you attain, whether in your understanding of the Torah itself or your understanding of the meaning of your spiritual work, prayer, the mitzvahs, etc., is a giving of the Torah. All such revelations are necessarily preceded by a period of confusion. All such revelations are necessarily preceded by a period of confusion. All such revelations are necessarily preceded by a period of confusion. One finds himself tormented by doubts and plagued with obstacles and difficulties. One finds himself tormented by doubts and plagued with obstacles and difficulties. One finds himself tormented by doubts and plagued with obstacles and difficulties, physical desires, and all kinds of other distractions. They all derive from the remote places that draw their life force from the very concealment of the hidden utterance of ayeih. When they attack and it seems impossible to find a way out, you must ask and search ayeih, where's the place of his glory? Then you fall into confusion. Then your fall into confusion serves its purpose. Then your fall into confusion serves its purpose. Then your fall into confusion serves its purpose. Then your fall into confusion serves its purpose, making it possible for you to rise to the level of ayeih, the hidden utterance, the very root of the Torah and all 10 utterances. You can now draw Torah from the exalted source, for this is the root of the entire Torah. The revelation of God's glory is a creation out of nothing, from ayin, nothing, to yesh, being, the source of the power that gives rise to all the glory. The source of the power that gives rise to all the glory, and the source of the Torah and all 10 utterances is ayeih, the hidden utterance, expressed in the word bezH. bezH is the first word of the Torah and the place from which the rest of the Torah follows. It is from the very hiddenness of mystery and mystery of ayeih. It is from the very hiddenness and mystery of ayeih. It is from the very hiddenness and mystery of ayeih. It is from the very hiddenness and mystery of ayeih. Nach, nachman, meuman, that the forces of evil and impurity receive their vitality. From here they derive their power to hide God's glory, sometimes even completely, and to put doubts, confusions, and even atheism into man's hearts. And even atheism into man's heart. This is the source of the power of the evil inclination, which is called an other God. And despite having become caught up in all this, you then ask, where is the place of his glory? You can then rise to the very root of holiness, the root of the Torah, the level of ayeih, bezH, and from there gain a new revelation of Torah. Now we can understand why the Torah had to be given in the wilderness, not anywhere else, and only following the exile in Egypt. At the height of their slavery, spiritual and physical, the children of Israel cried out to God. They had no idea at all what they should do to escape. Accordingly, they resorted to the traditional art of their fathers crying out to God, to the traditional arts of their fathers crying out to God, searching and waiting to discover God's glory, searching and waiting to discover God's glory. This initiated their liberation. They went into the wilderness, a place of snakes, serpents, and scorpions of thirst, a place of snakes, serpents, and scorpions of thirst. A place that is removed from God's glory. There of all places they search for God, until finally they receive the Torah itself. Their decline achieved its purpose, culminating in their ascents. By searching in the wilderness and the remote places, we attain Torah revelations, because the root of Torah is ayeih, which is to be found by searching. Prior to the giving of the Torah, the children of Israel fell into doubts. They asked, is yesh God among us or not? Ayin. Is yesh God among us? Yesh God among us? Is God among us, or ayin, or not? The Zohar explains that they really wanted to know whether the holiness. The Zohar explains that they really wanted to know whether the holiness that dwelled among them was that designated as yesh, or the holiness called ayin. Yesh refers to God's revealed glory, for the whole earth is filled with His glory, while ayin refers to the level. For the whole earth is filled with His glory, while ayin refers to the level of ayeih. At the time, the children of Israel had no water. At the time, the children of Israel had no water. Their suffering caused them to fall into doubts. Their suffering caused them to fall into doubts, and they did not know if God was in their midst. This was the moment God brought a molech against them. At the time, the children of Israel had no water. Their suffering caused them to fall into doubts, and they did not know if God was in their midst. This was the moment God brought a molech against them. As long as the evil inclination lies more or less dormant, it is human nature to weaken in our search for God. As long as the evil inclination lies more or less dormant, as long as the evil inclination lies more or less dormant, it is human nature to weaken in our search for God. Only when forced with an all-out attack are our spiritual powers aroused, bringing us to search in earnest. Where is the place of His glory? This explains why the war with Amalek occurred immediately before the giving of the Torah. Amalek was the embodiment of the filth of the serpent, epitomizing the filthy places where it is impossible to find God in any way. The only thing to do there is to cry out loudly to God and search, where is His glory? Whenever Moses raised his hand, Israel prevailed. As long as Moses raised his hand and Israel looked up to heaven, they were victorious. Why did Moses raise his hand instead of telling the Israelites explicitly to turn their hearts to God? The answer is that at the height of such an attack by the serpents and the filthy places, it is impossible even to speak of God's glory because it cannot be found there. The only thing left is to hint, as Moses did with his hands, raising them upwards as a sign that the Israelites should lift their hearts upwards and search. Ayeih, this was the key to the Israelite victory. They rose to the ultimate level of ayeih and therefore received the Torah immediately afterwards, because the roots of the Torah are in ayeih. When Moses first went to Paro to ask him to free the children of Israel, Paro responded by imposing more burdens upon the people. He increased the oppression so much that even Moses was led to question God, why have you treated this people badly? The oppression intensified because of when the oppression intensified because the liberation had to stem from the level of ayeih, which is the final jubilee, the 50th gate, the source of the true freedom of the Jewish people. Therefore, at the climax of the exile, on the very threshold of the liberation, God hid Himself so completely that even Moshe himself was unable to understand His ways. That was why Moses asked this question. He was asking, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Where is God's promise to redeem them? Where's God's promise to redeem them? Now they are suffering more than ever. And this was precisely how the liberation came about. And this was precisely how the liberation came about. Through Moses' searching, God revealed Himself to him more fuller than ever. And in the end, God redeemed the children of Israel through Moses. Thus, the end of the lesson of ayeih indicates that even the greatest tzaddikim must face doubts before they can attain new revelations of Torah. These doubts lead them to ask ayeih, and this is what brings about the revelation. The liberation from Egypt was itself a revelation of Torah, since it marked the beginning of the process that culminated in the giving of the Torah at Sinai. Har Sinai. And moreover, at the time of the Exodus itself, the children of Israel received several mitzvahs, because the most important facet of redemption is the freeing of the soul so it can come close to God. This is the giving of the Torah. Every exile of the Jewish people was followed by a revelation of Torah. After the redemption from Egypt came that revelation at Sinai. After the Babylonian exile came the revelation in the time of Mordechai and Esther. And so it will be after our present exile. We will then receive the greatest revelation of all, because the main revelation of the Torah is destined to occur at the coming of the Mashiach. Through our very exile among the nations and the filthy places, we are brought to search ayeih, and from there you will search for the Lord your God. The search itself will bring us to the greatest ascent of all, to the level of ayeih, the root of the Torah itself. Today, at the end of this final exile, Today, at the end of this final exile, the concealment has become deeper than ever. God is hidden from us, and the concealment within the concealment. Our only hope is to do everything in our power to search ayeih, where's the place of His glory, sighing with longing for spiritual freedom. The intensity of the exile serves this purpose alone, to bring us to search, because now we have to rise to the highest level of all to achieve the final redemption. That is why this exile has been so long and painful, to the point that everybody is wondering what happened to God's promise, and when the long-awaited end will come. By searching, we will come to ayeih, and then we will attain the final redemption. It is impossible to communicate in writing how firm and persistent you must be. Don't let yourself be discouraged. Even if you feel you have fallen to the lowest hell, don't give up. You're still capable of doing something good. Just don't get discouraged, and you won't even do what you still can. Just don't get discouraged, or you won't even do what you still can. The Rebbe emphasized this time and time again. Some of his most wonderful teachings center around this idea. But the point must be repeated again and again, because people get so discouraged they imagine it doesn't apply to them. Each one thinks his own situation is so impossible. His physical desire is so strong. Each one thinks his own situation is so impossible. His physical desire is so strong. His own situation is so impossible. His physical desires are so strong. The obstacle is so great that they can never come close to God. The Rebbe, each one thinks his own situation is so impossible. His physical desire is so strong. The obstacle is so great that he can never come close to God. The Rebbe vehemently disagreed. Gewalt! Don't despair, he cried, drawing out the word Gewalt. Gewalt, don't despair, he cried, drawing out the word Gewalt. Everyone can succeed. Everyone can succeed and come close to God. Everyone can succeed and come close to God through this lesson alone. Search, and every way you can. Eventually you must succeed. And then you will see that no effort is ever lost. Even the slightest gesture, eventually you must succeed. And then you will see that no effort is ever lost. Even the slightest gesture of an effort is most precious in God's eyes. Even the slightest gesture of an effort is most precious in God's eyes. Each little motion is a part of the remedy until in the end you will rise to the greatest heights. Each little motion is a part of the remedy until in the end you will rise to the greatest heights. Each little motion is a part of the remedy until in the end you will rise to the greatest heights. In the previous section, we also discussed the challenges of making living and how to meet them. The following excerpt Hilchos read2 6:24-27, he addresses the same subject from a different angle, examining the source from which a livelihood comes. We may be able to trace the immediate change of events that bring us our income, be it salary, profit, a sudden windfall, or whatever. We must be aware, however, that everything in the world is governed by God, down to the smallest detail. Beyond the immediate cause rests a higher source from which our livelihood derives. Knowing this, we are better able to develop our trust that whatever we need will be sent to us when the time is right, regardless of whatever or not we can see it, whether or not we can see it on the horizon. Nosson writes, a person's income is symbolized by the idea of man. At its root, the mana derives from the hidden utterance of ayeih, for they did not know what it was. Similarly, the rabbis taught a person's livelihood depends not on his merit, but on mazel. Mazel alludes to keser, the crown, the highest of the spheres, which is itself the hidden utterance. Owing to its exalted source, the mana involved many trials for the Jewish people. They complained before it came down. And afterwards they were tested by being told not to leave any over until the morning. God said He was sending the mana in order that I may try them to see if they will go by my torah. And Moses said, He afflicted you to test you. He afflicted you to let you hunger, and He fed you the mana. He afflicted you to test you. He afflicted you to let you hunger. And He fed you the mana, which neither you nor your fathers knew. The hidden utterance from which the mana derived, which neither you nor your fathers knew. The hidden utterance from which the mana derived is the source of man's trials in life. He afflicted you to let you hunger, and He fed you the mana, which neither you nor your fathers knew. The hidden utterance from which the mana derived is the source of man's trials in life, because the forces of evil draw their strength from it. Man has to pass through these places to be tested. If he succeeds in searching for God even there, he can rise to supreme heights, precisely because of the mana. Namely, one's livelihood derives from the exalted source. Earning a living is one of the main tests a person endures in life. Before he can receive his living from the hidden utterance, he must pass through the filthy places where it is impossible to see godliness, and where all kinds of difficulties and confusions arise. But if he stands up to the test and succeeds in searching for God, even there his fall becomes transformed into a great ascent, and he draws his livelihood from the hidden utterance. We can understand why some of the children of Israel stumbled and complained against God before the manna came down. They were overwhelmed by the doubts and confusions they first stumbled and complained against God before the manna came down. They were overwhelmed by the doubts and confusions they first encountered, all of which arose from the heavy concealment of the hidden utterance. The majority, however, acted correctly, asking and searching for God's glory until the manna came down. The majority, The majority, however, acted correctly, asking and searching for God's glory until the manna came down. There's a deep meaning to the tests that came afterwards, in order that I may try them, to see if the children of Israel would fulfill related mitzvahs which included not leaving any of the manna over until the next morning, precisely because a person's livelihood, his manna, comes from such an exalted and concealed source. As soon as it enters this material world, the light from which it derives immediately becomes hidden again. This light cannot be apprehended through reason, only through faith. This light cannot be apprehended through reason, only through faith. So as soon as the manna came down for one day, it was hard for the children of Israel to believe that it would come down the next day as well. The forces hiding godliness. So as soon as the manna came down for one day, it was hard for the children of Israel to believe that it would come down the next day as well. The forces hiding godliness also derive their life force from the hidden utterance and constantly assail the heart anew. This explains why some of the children of Israel did not stand up to the test. They found it hard to believe that the manna would come down again the next day. So they kept some of it overnight, and it bred worms and rotted because the forces of evil, and it bred worms and rotted because the forces of evil gained control. In truth, the manna for each day could only come down that day. Each of the 6 days of creation has its own utterance through which God brought about the creation of that day, because each day lies because between each day lies a boundary, a contraction, whose source lies in the concealment of the hidden utterance. Because between each day lies a boundary, a contraction, whose source lies in the concealment of the hidden utterance, whose source lies in the concealment of the hidden utterance. This is the darkness preceding each day, as in, it was evening and it was morning of the first, second, third day. In the darkness of night, all the beasts of the forest creep forth. The forces of evil gain control at night, since their power derives from darkness, the concealment of the hidden utterance. Each day, only enough manna came down for that day to inspire the children of Israel to lift their eyes upwards. It is impossible to draw blessings from the hidden source for all the days at once, because this would violate the limits placed between each individual day, giving too much power to the forces of evil. Because this would violate the limits placed between each individual day, giving too much power to the forces of evil. Lifting the eyes upwards refers to searching ayeih. Where is the place of his glory? Each day one must search again so as to bring down. Where is the place of his glory? Each day one must search again so as to bring down the livelihood for the next day. Now Moses said to Aaron, take a jar and put an omer of manna in it and lay it before God to be kept throughout your generations. A portion of the manna was to be kept as a memorial, because today, too, our livelihood comes to us in the same way as the manna. This is something everyone should realize. It is true, there are differences. The manna came down as ready-made food day by day, while today each individual receives his livelihood in a manner uniquely suited to him. Some people make enough profit on one deal to support themselves for a whole year. Others receive their income each month or each week, and still others barely receive what they need day by day. There are innumerable distinctions, yet even so, everyone receives his livelihood like the manna, in the sense that it derives from the hidden utterance. We therefore have to pass through the remote places and undergo all the trials of making a living honestly, without deceit, or theft, and without succumbing to the craving for wealth. All these tests derive from the forces of evil. Then, as soon as anyone receives his livelihood or comes into some extra money, the light is immediately concealed from him, and he does not know where his income will come from in the future. Sometimes people make a sudden profit. Then as soon as anyone receives his livelihood or comes into some extra money, the light is immediately concealed from him, and he does not know where his income will come from in the future. Sometimes people make a sudden profit through a miraculous set of circumstances, which could only have come about through God's own direction, yet immediately they start worrying, what will I live on afterwards? We have to develop our trust and not worry from one day to the next. Someone who worries what he is going to eat tomorrow lacks faith. God brings each person his livelihood in such a way that it is always a test. The main thing is to lift our eyes upwards each time we need something. The main thing is to lift our eyes upwards each time we need something. There's no other way except to search for God in the remote places, for those who seek the Lord will lack nothing good. bezH nanach, nachman meuman. Nanach, nachman meuman. Nanach, nachman meuman. Nanach, nachman meuman. Nanach, nachman, nachman, nachman meuman. Nanach, nachman, nachman, nachman meuman. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman, meuman. Rebbe Zera found Rabbi Yehuda standing in the entrance of his father-in-law's house. He saw that he was in a humorous mood and would give him the answer to anything he might ask about all the different phenomena in the world. Rebbe Zera asked, "Why is the antenna of the locust soft?" Rabbi Yehuda answered, "Because it lives in the willow." and if its antenna were hard, it would snap when it hits the wood, blinding the locust. Because as Rabbi Shmuel taught, the locust's vision depends on its antenna. Shabbos 77 BC, Rashi Adlak. The teaching of ayeih is founded on the deepest Torah concepts about God's relation to the universe. We live in a world where godliness is often invisible, to the point that some philosophers have tried to deny God altogether. Quite ordinary people also find themselves troubled by doubts at one time or another. Rebbe Nachman was well aware of the anguish such thoughts may produce. His answer is as daring as it is awesome. Rebbe Nachman taught his answer is as daring as it is awesome. Rebbe Nachman taught God created the universe for the sake of His loving kindness, because He wanted to reveal His loving kindness. And were it not for the creation of the universe, to whom would He show it? Therefore, He brought about the entire creation from the beginning of Atzilus, the world of emanation, to the central point of the physical world, all in order to display His loving kindness. But when God wanted to create the universe, there was no place to create it, because everything was infinite. While the universe necessarily, because everything was infinite. While the universe necessarily had to be finite, therefore, He contracted His infinite light to the sides, and through this contraction, the cholol aponi, the vacated space, was formed. It was in this vacated space that all the days and all the divine qualities were manifest, making up the creation of the world. The vacated space was essential for the creation of the universe, because without it, there would have been no place for the universe to be created. Yet the contraction through which the vacated space came about is impossible to comprehend with human reason. Only in time to come will the mystery be unraveled. It is impossible to comprehend because we have to make two contradictory statements about it, yesh and ayin. Since the vacated space came about through the contraction, with God removing, as it were, His godliness from there, we have to say there's no godliness there, ayin. Otherwise, it would not be empty at all. It would not be empty, and all would be infinite light, with no room for the creation of the universe. On the other hand, the truth is that godliness must certainly be present. Yes, because nothing can exist without God's life force. It is this contradiction which makes it impossible. To comprehend the vacated space into the future time. It is this contradiction which makes it impossible to comprehend the vacated space until the future time. Because the vacated space is, Quran 164, because the vacated space is apparently devoid of godliness, it is the source of all the philosophical problems that seem to raise doubts about God. And precisely because of the concealment of godliness there, it seems as if there is no solution to these problems. This was why Rebbe Nachman warned us not to get involved with them at all, since all who go into her will not return. In these matters we must rely on faith alone. The Kabbalists characterize the vacated space as a locust whose clothing is of it and in it. The clothing refers to the contractions involved in the creation of the vacated space. Through these garments it is possible to understand that it is of him and in him. nachma. The following excerpt, Hilchos read2, Reb Nosson relates Rabbi Nachman's teachings about the vacant space in ayeih in order to elucidate the questions by bezH asked Rabbi Yehuda when he was in a humorous mood. Reb Nosson writes, only from ayeih, the hidden utterance of bezH, can the places removed from holiness receive their life force. This is because of the very concealment and mystery of ayeih. These places cannot receive the vitality from God's revealed glory, because I will not give my glory to another. And these places constitute the sphere, the sitra achra, the other side. What are these places removed from holiness? They are not necessarily physical places, though there certainly are places that are, they are not necessarily physical places. Though there certainly are places that are evil. Mostly we experience them as mental places. States of mind we encounter at certain times in life is when we are confronted by baffling doubts that seem to contradict the most basic tenets of faith. Sometimes they involve philosophical conundrums that seem to go on and on without end. What is this seem to go on and on without end? What is the source of such doubts? And Nachman taught that they derive from the vacated space. Ayeih involves the mystery of the vacated space, formed as it was through the concealment of godliness. The filthy places that are cut off from holiness appear to be devoid of godliness. Because godliness is concealed in such places, God's glory cannot be revealed there. However, ayeih teaches that even in these places, godliness must be present, albeit concealed. Thus, the main solution for anyone who has fallen there is to search for God, and it is impossible to find Him through reason or logic, only with faith. And it is impossible to find Him through reason or logic, only with faith, through pleading and searching, ayeih, through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Through pleading and searching, ayeih, where is the place of His glory? Understand the practical implications of this lesson, because it can help and support you no matter what you encounter in life. You never know what may happen to you. Anyone who genuinely wants to enter the paths of holiness is tested by being thrown into places like these. If you practice the teachings of ayeih, you will be able to turn your falls into great ascents, but it takes tremendous determination to succeed. But it takes tremendous determination to succeed. To succeed, the main things to know, but it takes tremendous determination to succeed. The main thing is to know the limitations of the human mind. For I am more a brute than a man. You can succeed only by putting aside your own ideas completely and rely on faith. You must have faith in the teachings of the tzaddikim, that godly vitality is present in the most remote places. You must have faith in the teachings of the tzaddikim, that godly vitality is present in the most remote places, even in the filthy places. Using human intelligence, it is impossible to find God's glory there, because these places are apparently devoid of godliness. But if you have faith and search ayeih, you can rise to the greatest heights. This will help us understand Rebbe Zer's question and Rabbi Yehuda's answer. The locus is a reference to the vacated space. As you saw above, the antenna, Hebrew keren, alludes to the godly vitality channeled there until a veil of the greatest, under a veil of the greatest concealment. The word keren, literally horn, suggests the word antenna keren alludes to the godly vitality channeled there under a veil of the greatest concealment. The word keren, literally horn, suggests the strength of power or power of an animal or human. The strength or power of an animal or human, the strength of an ox and other beasts is manifested in the horns. The strength of an ox and other beasts is manifested in the horns, and the term is also used to refer to human strength, as in his horns are the horns of the buffalo, and I will break all the horns of the wicked, while the horn of the tzaddik will be exalted, which means that the power of the wicked will be broken and the tzaddik will prevail. The source of a creature's strength depends on the godly vitality which is channeled to that creature, whether by holy or unholy means. Thus, the manifestation of godly vitality is also termed keren. Cited from Habakkuk, and a brightness appears as the light, he has raised karnaim at his side. In Exodus, the skin of the face of Moses beamed karan with light. Rebbe Zer asks why the antenna of the locust is soft. In other words, why is the vitality of the vacated space soft? In the sense that no godly light is visible there, and that the animating vitality is finer than fine, being hidden from all who enter. Just as something soft and pliant is swept aside by all. But Rabbi Yehuda answered, because it lives in the willow. The willow, a plant which has neither taste nor smell, symbolizes those who are removed from holiness. Thus the rabbis compared Jewish sinners to the willow. Rabbi Yehuda continued, because if it were hard, it would snap when it hits the wood. He implied that in these remote places, the key to staying firm, to standing firm, is precisely by being soft. Let be, Hebrew harpu, literally make soft. Let be, Hebrew harpu, literally make soft, and know that I am God. This is connected with the harpu, and know that I am God. Make soft, let be, literally make soft, and know that I am God. This is connected with the saying of the rabbis, a person should always be soft like a reed and not hard like a cedar. All the winds in the world cannot move a reed from its place because it is soft and pliant and always yields, yet it is firm and strong at the root, which is why the winds cannot pull it up. Not so with the hard cedar. The remote places are the embodiment of the vacated space. One feels tormented with doubts, material desires, and all kinds of problems. Rabbi Yehuda was saying, don't start with questions, kushiot, and answers. Do not harden, takshu, your hearts. In these situations, the way to remain steadfast is by being soft as a reed, not reacting to any of the questions and problems that plague you, not reacting to any of the questions and problems that plague you. Everyone has to face opposition from the outside and confusion from within. Don't try to answer back. I'm like a person who's not here, with no defenses on his lips. There is no answer to the problems and difficulties arising from the source. There is no answer to the problems and difficulties arising from this source. Where you should remain firm, however, is in your faith, like a soft reed that is firmly rooted under the water, even if it seems pliant and yielding above. Be strong in the traditional faith handed down from our ancestors. Pay no attention to all the distracting problems stemming from the filthy places, and don't try to solve them even if it seems as if you are yielding. King David was a messianic king whose role was to rectify the remote places and lift up all who have fallen there. When he was anointed king, he said, I am this day soft and just anointed king. Soft as a reed, because only the Mashiach attains this quality perfectly, so as to conquer the whole world. Rabbi Yehuda continued, if its antenna were hard, it would snap when it hits the wood, blinding the locust. In the remote places, the light is very concealed. One who is hard and stubborn, involving himself in every problem, searching for solutions, will end up being blinded. One who is hard and stubborn, involving himself in every problem and searching for solutions, will end up being blinded. His eyes will become closed like those of a blind man, because these problems have no solution. The only solution is to be soft as a reed, answering nothing, firm at the roots of faith, searching and entreating ayeih. The only solution is to be soft as a reed, answering nothing, and treating ayeih. The only solution is to be soft as a reed, answering nothing, firm at the roots of faith, searching. The only solution is to be soft as a reed, answering nothing. The only solution is to be soft as a reed. Nanach, nachman. Only solution is to be soft as a reed, answering nothing. From the roots of faith, and treating ayeih. The only solution is to be soft as a reed, answering nothing. Firm at the roots of faith, searching and entreating ayeih. This is the way to rise up. There's much more to explain about how to be soft, but it is impossible to put it in writing. Anyone with intelligence and a genuine desire for the truth will understand for himself. The previous sections nanach, nachman. Nanach.